I am Jennifer, and I'm 27 years old. I know what you're probably thinking right now. You're probably wondering why someone like me, who seemingly has it all together, would be sitting here, telling you this story. The truth is, I never thought I'd be in this position. But here I am, and I need to tell you everything. Because what happened to me, it's not just my story, it's a warning. She takes a moment, her hands slightly trembling, and continues. I had a perfect life, or at least that's what everyone thought. I was married to Mark. He's the kind of man every woman dreams of. Loyal, caring, hardworking. He gave me everything I could ever ask for. A beautiful house, a stable life, a future we were supposed to build together. But deep down, I felt something was missing. I didn't understand it at first, but I wasn't happy. Not in the way I was supposed to be. She sighs, looking away briefly as though recalling a distant memory. I loved Mark. I truly did. But there was this emptiness inside of me that I couldn't fill. I kept trying to ignore it, to push it away, to pretend like everything was fine. But it wasn't, and I didn't know how to fix it. Jennifer looks back at the camera, her expression softening, as if she's struggling with the next part of her story. Then there was James. James was Mark's best friend. He had been in our lives for years. He was always around. He knew everything about me. He knew my hopes, my fears, my dreams. When Mark was busy, James was there. When I was feeling down, James would listen to me. He made me laugh when I thought I'd never smile again. I trusted him. He was like a brother to me. She looks down, her voice getting softer. But as time went on, I realized it wasn't just friendship anymore. And I didn't know how it happened. I didn't know when things changed between us. I didn't know when I started looking at him differently. But one night, everything changed. Jennifer pauses, her hands nervously twisting together. The tension in the room is palpable as she recalls the pivotal moment. It was supposed to be a normal evening, just like any other. Mark was working late, and James came over to keep me company. We had a few drinks, laughed, talked about old times. But as the night went on, something shifted. There was this tension between us, this feeling I couldn't ignore. And then, he kissed me. And I didn't stop it. I let it happen. Her voice cracks slightly, the weight of the confession settling in. I never thought I'd do something like that. I never thought I'd betray Mark, but I did. And once it happened, I couldn't take it back. That was just the beginning. I kept telling myself it was a mistake, that it would never happen again. But it did, over and over again. And with each time, I got deeper into a web of lies I couldn't escape from. Jennifer's eyes fill with tears, but she wipes them away quickly, not wanting to break down in front of the camera. The thing is, I didn't even realize how badly I was hurting Mark. I didn't realize how much I was lying to him, to myself. And the worst part? I didn't even feel guilty at first. All I could think about was how James made me feel alive, how he made me feel special, when Mark didn't see me that way anymore. He didn't understand me the way James did. She shakes her head, as if trying to make sense of the confusion she felt at the time. But then, Mark started to notice. He wasn't stupid, he knew something was off. He didn't know exactly what it was, but he knew I wasn't the same. And I tried to cover it up. I tried to lie, to make excuses. But deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before he found out. Her voice becomes heavier as she recounts the moment everything changed. One night, I thought I had everything under control. I thought I could keep the secret hidden, keep living this double life. But Mark came home early, and he saw everything. He saw us, together. And in that moment, my entire world shattered. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to explain myself because there was no explanation. There was no excuse for what I had done. Jennifer pauses again, her face full of regret and sorrow. She speaks with more emotion now, as if finally confronting the truth of her actions. Mark was devastated. He was furious, confused, heartbroken, and I don't blame him. I had destroyed everything. I had destroyed us. There was no going back from that. She wipes her eyes again, taking a deep breath before continuing. What happened after that was the hardest thing I've ever had to face. Mark didn't just walk away from me. He didn't just walk away from our marriage. What I didn't realize at the time was that I had done something even worse. I had put my child's future at risk. And now I was going to have to fight for everything I had left. I thought losing Mark was the worst thing that could happen, but I was wrong. Jennifer's expression hardens, a sense of determination mixed with sadness in her eyes. I can't take back what I did. I can't undo the damage I caused, but I can share this story with you. Maybe you can learn from my mistakes. If you've ever felt like I did, if you've ever felt like something was missing, like you were craving something you couldn't explain, don't let it take over. Don't make the same mistake I made, because the consequences, they'll destroy you. She looks directly into the camera, her eyes pleading with the audience to understand. I'll tell you what happened next, how everything fell apart after that night. But you need to understand, this isn't just my story, it's a warning. And if you don't want to end up like I did, make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next is something you'll never expect. The screen fades to black with the text, "Subscribe," and turn on notifications to hear the next part of Jennifer's story. Jennifer sits in the same dimly lit room, the camera zooming in slightly to capture the depth of her emotions. She takes a deep breath before beginning, her voice steady, though tinged with regret. I never thought it would get this far. After everything that happened with Mark, I thought I had hit rock bottom. I thought I had nothing left to lose. But I was wrong. What happened next, I wasn't prepared for. Not in the slightest. Jennifer looks away for a moment, as if collecting herself. She speaks more quietly now, her voice filled with pain. Mark left. I don't blame him. I really don't. He had every right to walk away. And he did. He left me. Our marriage was over. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the silence after. The emptiness. The reality of knowing that I had thrown everything away. Our house, our plans, everything. And all for what? A fleeting moment of excitement? A secret I couldn't keep. A lie I couldn't sustain. Jennifer's hands tremble slightly, but she steadies herself as though regaining control over her emotions. I thought that was the end. I thought the worst of it was over. But there was more. Much more. The truth was, I wasn't just losing Mark. I was losing my family. I was losing my future. And I was about to lose the one thing I couldn't bear to lose. My child. She looks at the camera directly now, her expression hardening with determination. You see, after everything came to light, after Mark found out about James, the affair didn't just affect me and him. It affected our child, too. And that, more than anything, broke me. Mark had every right to be angry with me. But now I had to face something I hadn't even considered at the time. Custody. Jennifer takes a deep breath, clearly struggling with the weight of her emotions. I never thought this would happen. I thought I was doing what I wanted, what I needed. But now, the very thing I was trying to protect, my family, my child, was being ripped away from me. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. She pauses, her eyes beginning to tear up, but she holds herself together. Mark filed for full custody, and the worst part? He had the right to. The way I had acted, the things I had done, there was no way I could justify any of it. I couldn't deny it. I had hurt him. I had betrayed him. And now I was going to lose my child because of my mistakes. Jennifer wipes away a tear, but her voice doesn't crack. There's a sense of cold realization settling in. I thought the affair was the worst thing that could happen. But that wasn't true. The real devastation came when I had to sit down in a lawyer's office and realize that my child's future was at risk because of the decisions I had made. She leans in slightly, her voice filled with more intensity now. It was a long, painful battle. I thought about fighting it. I thought about trying to make my case, to convince Mark that I could be a good mother despite everything. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't be enough. I knew the truth. How could I explain to anyone that I had let a moment of passion ruin everything I'd worked for? How could I make them understand that I still loved my child, even though I had destroyed everything else? Jennifer pauses again, looking down at her hands as if ashamed. James wasn't just a man I cheated with. He was someone who made me believe I could escape. But escaping didn't fix anything. It just made everything worse. And when I realized I had to face the consequences of what I'd done, losing my family, my child, it was more than I could bear. She looks directly at the camera, her voice steady, but filled with an unmistakable emotion. Mark didn't just take my marriage. He was taking the one thing I loved most in this world, my child. And I had no one to blame but myself. Jennifer looks away again, as though lost in the weight of her own thoughts. I tried to reach out to Mark, tried to talk to him, to make him see that I was still capable of being a good mother. But there was no changing his mind. He was angry, hurt. He couldn't even look at me the same way anymore. I had broken him, and I had broken myself in the process. She wipes another tear from her cheek but quickly recovers, her voice becoming stronger. In the end, I lost more than my marriage. I lost trust. I lost everything I thought I had. And I didn't just lose Mark, I lost a part of myself that I couldn't get back. I thought I was making a choice for myself, but I never realized how much it would cost me. Jennifer stares straight into the camera, her eyes full of regret, but there's a sense of acceptance as she finishes her confession. And the worst part? It wasn't even over yet, because just when I thought I couldn't lose anything else, I learned the biggest shock of all, the thing I never saw coming, that I never could have prepared for. But you'll hear about that in the next part of my story. Make sure you're subscribed because you don't want to miss it. Jennifer is sitting on the same couch as before, but this time she looks visibly exhausted. Her eyes are red from crying, and there's a heaviness in her voice as she begins. I thought after everything that happened I couldn't be hurt more. I thought I'd already lost everything, but I was wrong. The worst was yet to come, and it wasn't even the battle with Mark that would break me completely. She wipes a tear from her eye, taking a deep breath to steady herself before speaking again. I had already lost my marriage, my home, and my family. But what I didn't realize was that I was about to lose something I couldn't even fathom. My relationship with my child. The one thing I never thought would be in jeopardy. Jennifer's voice begins to tremble as she continues, her hands trembling as she clenches them together. The court hearings were a blur. I thought I could explain myself. I thought I could show them that I still loved my child, that despite everything, I would never stop being their mother. But Mark didn't just want the marriage to end. He wanted full custody. He had every right to fight for it. He had the moral high ground. The truth is, I didn't have any excuses left. Jennifer pauses for a moment, as if the weight of it all is crashing down on her again. In court, they asked me questions I wasn't prepared for. They wanted to know how I could be a good mother when I had destroyed the foundation of our family. They wanted to know how I could promise to provide a stable environment for my child when I had been living a lie. And there was nothing I could say to convince them otherwise. I had no defense, no explanation that could make up for the mess I had created. Her voice shakes, and she leans forward slightly, speaking more quietly now, as though confessing to herself. Mark's lawyer, She pauses, her voice catching, trying to control her emotions. They made me look like the villain, and I knew I was. I knew they were right to do it. They showed the judge every detail of the affair, everything that had happened behind closed doors. They painted me as a woman who had lost control, who had chosen a selfish moment of pleasure over her own family's future. And the worst part? I didn't even have a defense to offer. Jennifer wipes away more tears, but her face remains focused. Her voice is strong now, filled with a bitter acceptance. I never thought I'd see the day when I'd stand there, in that courtroom, and feel like I wasn't even worthy of fighting for my child. And that's when it hit me. The reality that I had made the worst decision of my life. Not just by cheating, but by allowing my selfishness to tear apart the very life I had built. And there was no way to fix it. Her face hardens, and she looks up at the camera again, her eyes filled with determination. Mark didn't just want to take my marriage away from me. He wanted to take my family. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting for my child's future, and it felt like the odds were stacked against me. How could I convince anyone that I deserved to be a mother when everything I had done was a lie? How could I show them that I could change? That I could do better when everything was already crumbling around me? She takes a deep breath, her eyes closing for a moment as if she's trying to gather her thoughts. But then something unexpected happened. James, remember him? My husband's best friend? The one who caused all of this. He came to me. He came to me after everything, after the affair was exposed, and he said something that I will never forget. Jennifer's voice drops lower as she recalls this moment, the bitterness in her tone now turning into something darker. James, after all the lies, after everything we had done, told me he didn't want anything to do with me anymore. He said he was sorry for what had happened, but that he had no intention of trying to fix it. He said he couldn't deal with the mess I had made, that he wasn't looking for a relationship, and that what had happened between us was just a fling. She laughs bitterly, shaking her head as if the absurdity of it still stings. The man I thought I could count on. He was walking away. And the worst part? I realized that I had been a fool. I had let myself fall for someone who never really cared about me the way I thought he did. I had let my need for excitement, for validation, cloud my judgment. And now, James was gone. He wasn't going to help me through this. He wasn't going to fight for me. He was just another casualty of my poor choices. Jennifer looks directly into the camera, her voice growing firmer as she speaks. I was on my own now. The only person I could rely on to fix this was me, and I had no idea where to start. I tried to reach out to Mark, tried to explain that I was sorry, that I could change, but it didn't matter. Nothing I said could take back what I had done. Jennifer leans back in her chair, her eyes narrowing as she stares ahead, processing the painful reality of her situation. But it wasn't over yet. I had one last chance to fight for my child. But that meant I had to face something I didn't want to. I had to look at myself in the mirror and admit that I wasn't the person I thought I was. I wasn't the woman I wanted to be. I had lost myself in a sea of lies, and now I had to fight to get back to who I used to be. Jennifer looks back into the camera, her eyes determined once again. This wasn't just about Mark anymore. This wasn't just about the affair. This was about me, my child, and my future. And no matter how much it hurt, I was going to fight. But what happened next? It changed everything again. Jennifer sits back, her expression weary but determined as she stares into the camera. Her voice is steadier now, though there's still a noticeable ache in her tone as she picks up where she left off. I thought I had already hit rock bottom, but I was wrong. The real devastation hadn't even come yet. I had no idea what was about to happen. No idea how much worse it could get. The worst part? It wasn't even just about losing Mark anymore. I was about to lose everything I had left to fight for. She pauses, her hands clenched together, and her eyes fill with a sense of urgency. I tried everything I could to reach out to Mark. I begged him to listen, begged him to understand. I kept telling him that I would change, that I would fix things, that I could be a better mother, a better person. But every time I tried, it felt like I was speaking to a stranger. The man I had once known, the man I had loved, was gone. The betrayal, the lies, everything I had done was too much to repair. Her voice breaks slightly, but she quickly steadies herself, not wanting to seem weak. I went to court again. This time I went alone. Mark was still there, still pushing for full custody, and I was fighting for the right to see my child. It was ugly. The entire process felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I didn't even know what I was doing anymore, except that I was desperate. I was desperate to fix things, to somehow get back what I had destroyed. Jennifer takes a deep breath, her eyes distant as she recounts the painful moments of the hearings. But every time I spoke, it felt like the walls were closing in on me. The judge asked me questions I didn't have answers for. They asked me how I could provide a stable home for my child when my life was anything but stable. They asked me why I should be trusted to be a mother when I had already proven that I couldn't even be faithful to my husband. And with each question, each accusation, I could feel my world crumbling even more. It was like I was drowning in my own mistakes. Her hands are shaking now, but she holds them together, looking down, trying to focus. Mark's lawyer, they tore me apart. They painted me as this unfit mother, Someone who had no business raising a child. And the worst part? I couldn't deny it. I couldn't argue with them. I had nothing left to say. I was guilty of everything they accused me of, and there was no way to fix that. Jennifer looks up, her face hardening with resolve. She looks directly at the camera, as though speaking to herself more than anyone else. But there was still one thing left to lose. One last thing I hadn't even realized I was at risk of losing until it was too late. My chance to be with my child, to be in their life, to be the mother they needed. She shakes her head, the frustration evident in her voice. I thought I could win the custody battle. I thought I could get my child back. But as the days passed, as the hearings dragged on, I realized something horrifying. I wasn't just losing my marriage, my family, my dignity. I was losing my child's future, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Her voice cracks a little, but she holds back the tears. I spent hours alone, crying, wondering how I could have been so stupid. How could I have ruined everything? I had destroyed the life I had with Mark. I had destroyed the trust he had in me. And now, I was losing my child. I felt like I didn't deserve anything anymore. I didn't deserve to be their mother. I didn't deserve a second chance, and I didn't deserve forgiveness. Jennifer looks at her hands, clearly struggling to maintain composure. I went to therapy. I tried to talk to someone about what had happened to make sense of it all. But every session, every conversation, all I could think about was how I had let down the one person who mattered most in my life. My child. They were my world, my reason for everything. And now I had risked losing them because of a selfish mistake. She lets out a shaky breath, then looks up, her face a mixture of guilt and determination. I never thought this would be my life. I never thought I'd be sitting here telling you this story. But the reality is, I was given a choice to fix everything, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't take back the affair. I couldn't take back my lies, and I couldn't take back the damage I'd caused. But what happened next? What I learned in those final moments of the custody battle. It was more than just losing. It was about realizing how much I had changed and how much I still had to lose. Jennifer pauses, looking directly into the camera, her gaze unwavering. But the shock wasn't just the court ruling. It was the moment I realized that losing everything wasn't the worst part. It was what came after. And that's when I learned the hardest truth of all. The truth I wasn't ready for. Her voice lowers, as though the next part of the story is even more devastating. You won't believe what happened next, but I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything, because what happened next, it wasn't just a battle for custody. It was a battle for my very soul. Make sure you're subscribed because you won't want to miss what happens next. The shocking truth is about to come out. Jennifer is sitting in the same room, though she now looks more exhausted than ever. Her eyes are tired, and her voice is filled with both exhaustion and determination. She speaks softly, as if reflecting on the harshest reality of her life. I thought I knew what heartbreak was. I thought I understood what it meant to lose everything. But I was wrong. There's something worse than losing your marriage, worse than losing your family, worse than losing your dignity. And that something was about to hit me like a freight train. Jennifer pauses, taking a moment to collect herself, her eyes unfocused for a second as she recalls the moment everything changed. After the court ruling, I thought I was done. I thought it was all over. I had lost the battle for my marriage, and I had lost the battle for my child. I was in the lowest place I'd ever been, and I didn't know how to get back up. There were days I couldn't even get out of bed. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. All I had left was this empty space inside of me that I couldn't fill. She takes a deep breath, gathering her thoughts, her gaze sharp and focused. But then, there was a phone call, a call that I never expected to receive, a call that changed everything. I remember picking up the phone, my heart racing, because I thought maybe, just maybe, there was some kind of miracle, some way to fix it, to make it right. Jennifer leans forward, her voice trembling as she recalls the conversation that shook her world. It was from James, and at first, I didn't even recognize the voice on the other end. But when he spoke, when he said my name, I froze. I thought I was done with him. I thought I was done with everything. But here he was, calling me after all this time, after everything that had happened. Jennifer shakes her head, the bitter realization dawning on her as she recalls James's words. He told me that he wanted to talk. He said he had something important to tell me, and I didn't know what to think. I didn't know if I wanted to hear it, but I didn't have a choice, he insisted. And when I agreed to meet him, I had no idea that I was walking into something that would change my life again. The camera captures Jennifer's tense expression as she remembers the moment of that meeting, the weight of uncertainty pressing on her. We met at a cafe. It was quiet, and it felt like everything was spinning. He was sitting across from me, looking at me like he had something to say, like he was hiding something. And in that moment, I realized there was more to the story than I had thought. There was more that I didn't know. Jennifer's voice softens, almost a whisper, as she reveals the shocking truth that James shared with her. James told me that he wasn't just walking away from me. He wasn't just done with everything. He told me that he had been hiding something from me, something that would make everything we'd been through, everything that had happened, even worse. Her voice falters for a moment, and she takes a deep breath before continuing. He told me that he was never planning on being with me, that what we had wasn't real, that he had been using me just like I had been using him. He said the affair had been nothing more than a distraction for him, a way for him to escape his own life. And when he saw how deeply I was falling for him, he realized it was all just a game he wasn't willing to play anymore. Jennifer's eyes well up with tears, her expression one of disbelief as she recalls this final betrayal. I couldn't believe it. After everything, after all the pain, the betrayal, the heartache, I thought he cared about me. I thought I mattered. But the truth was, I had been just another chapter in his story, and when he was done with me, he walked away. Just like that. She shakes her head, trying to shake off the emotional weight of James's words, but it's clear she's struggling. And the worst part? He didn't just walk away from me. He walked away from Mark, too. He told me that he never cared about him, never really did. He had been playing both of us the entire time. The man I thought was my husband's best friend, the man I thought I could trust, had been lying to both of us from the start. And I was too blind to see it. Jennifer's voice grows stronger now, filled with an anger that she's barely able to suppress. I had given so much of myself to him. And for what? For him to turn around and tell me it was all a lie? He had never loved me, never cared about me. I had been nothing more than a way to pass the time, a distraction from his own miserable life. Jennifer takes a moment to calm herself, wiping away a tear, but her eyes are resolute now. In that moment, I realized something that I hadn't understood before. I had been chasing after the wrong things. I had been chasing someone who would never care for me the way I needed. And what hurt the most was that I had destroyed everything for nothing. I had lost Mark. I had lost my family. I had lost everything for someone who never even cared about me. Jennifer looks directly into the camera, her expression firm, though the sadness still lingers in her eyes. But in the end, I learned something about myself. I learned that no matter how much I wanted to fix things, no matter how much I wanted to go back and change everything, I couldn't. And the hardest part? Realizing that I had to start over. I had to figure out who I was without Mark, without James, without the lies. I had to rebuild my life from the ashes of everything I had destroyed. She takes a long pause, her voice steady now as she looks up, ready for the next chapter. But that wasn't the end of the story. There was one last shock coming, one final twist that I never saw coming. And I promise you, you won't believe it when I tell you. So make sure you're subscribed because you'll want to hear what happened next. You won't believe what James told me after all of this. Jennifer sits in the same room, her expression exhausted, yet a steely determination is evident in her eyes. She looks directly into the camera, her voice calm but heavy with the weight of everything she's about to reveal. I thought I had already lost everything. I thought I had hit rock bottom when Mark left, when my life unraveled. But the truth is, I hadn't even begun to face the real consequences of my actions. The worst part, the part I never saw coming, came when I least expected it. She shifts in her seat, trying to steady her emotions, but her voice cracks slightly as she continues. After everything James had told me, after all the lies he'd spun, I thought there was nothing left to find out. I thought I knew it all. But I was wrong. And the worst part, the part that shook me to my core, was when I found out I wasn't the only one who had been betrayed. Jennifer's eyes harden as she recalls what happened next, a sense of disbelief still lingering in her voice. James had lied to me. That much I knew. But what he didn't tell me was that he had been hiding something even bigger. I found out, through a mutual friend, that James wasn't just walking away from me because he didn't care. No, he was walking away because he had been hiding another truth. A truth that was even more painful than anything he had already done to me. She leans forward slightly, her voice steady now, the realization hitting her hard as she recalls what she uncovered. James had been seeing someone else who wasn't just a friend, someone who had been in his life long before he came into mine. And the worst part? That someone was a woman Mark had been friends with for years. They had been sleeping together while I was with Mark. Jennifer takes a deep breath, the weight of the revelation heavy on her heart. She looks up, her eyes filled with the realization of the full extent of the betrayal. James wasn't just a liar. He was a manipulator. He had been using me the entire time, playing me like I was nothing. And the worst part was, I had been so caught up in my own pain, in my own guilt, that I never even thought to question him. I never thought to ask the right questions, to dig deeper. She closes her eyes briefly, as if trying to process everything, but then she opens them again, her voice more focused. I had already lost everything. Mark, my marriage, my family, and my own sense of self. But now, I was facing something I never thought I would. The truth that I had been the fool. I had trusted the wrong person, believed the wrong words. And in the end, it wasn't just Mark who was betrayed. It was me too. And I had no one left to blame but myself. Jennifer's voice cracks as she tries to hold back tears, but her resolve remains strong as she continues. I thought the affair was the hardest thing I'd ever have to face. But this, finding out that James had been seeing someone else, that I was just a distraction, a pawn in his game, it broke me in a way I didn't know was possible. And the worst part? I had no one to turn to. I couldn't even look at Mark anymore, knowing what I had done to him. I couldn't even look at myself. She pauses for a moment, as if trying to compose herself. When she speaks again, her voice is quiet, almost resigned. I had hit rock bottom, but I didn't know how to climb out. The guilt, the shame, it was all consuming, and I didn't know where to go from here. I thought about calling Mark, begging him to come back, to give me a second chance. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't make a difference. I had already lost him. I had lost myself. Jennifer stands up, pacing slightly before turning back to the camera, her expression a mixture of sorrow and determination. But then, something inside me changed. Something shifted. I realized that if I wanted to have any chance of reclaiming my life, I had to stop looking back. I had to stop blaming everyone else for my mistakes. I had to take responsibility for everything that had happened, my actions, my choices, and start to rebuild. She looks directly at the camera, her voice becoming firmer, stronger. This is where it gets hard. The part where I have to face myself in the mirror and ask myself, who am I now? What have I become? And what kind of person do I want to be moving forward? Jennifer looks down for a moment, her expression softening as she reflects on the road ahead. I don't have all the answers. I don't know if I'll ever get everything back, but I know one thing for sure. I can't keep living in the past. I can't keep hurting the people I love, and I can't keep running away from the truth. I have to face it head on, no matter how painful. She pauses, as though gathering strength for what's to come. But the hardest part, the part I never saw coming, that's something I'm still trying to understand. It's the part where I have to let go of everything that's holding me back, and finally take responsibility for the one thing that's left: me. I'm going to rebuild, but it's not going to be easy. And the truth is, I don't know where to start. Jennifer looks at the camera one last time, her expression one of quiet determination. You won't believe what happens next. It's not over yet, but this time I'm going to make sure I'm ready for whatever comes. I'm not going to let the past control me any longer. And if you're still here, if you're still listening, I want you to understand something. The next part of this story is the most important one. Jennifer is sitting in the same dimly lit room, but this time her face is different. There is a calmness, a sense of acceptance in her demeanor, though the pain still lingers in her eyes. She takes a deep breath before speaking, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I never thought I'd be here, telling you all of this. I never thought I'd have to share this part of my life with anyone, let alone to you. But as I sit here, I realize that this isn't just about me anymore. This is about the choices I made, the consequences I've had to face, and the person I'm trying to become. She pauses, looking at her hands, her fingers tracing invisible lines in the air as she reflects on everything that's happened. I've been through so much: heartbreak, betrayal, guilt, and for a long time, I thought the pain would never go away. I thought I would always carry this weight, this regret. But I've come to realize something. The hardest part of all of this wasn't losing Mark. It wasn't losing James. It wasn't even the custody battle, though that was one of the most painful things I've ever gone through. Jennifer looks up, her eyes hardening with a new sense of resolve. The hardest part was realizing that I had lost myself. I had spent so much time trying to fix everything else, trying to make amends with people I had hurt, that I forgot to look at who I was in all of this. I lost sight of who I was, and I let the shame, the guilt, and the lies define me. Her voice softens, almost like a confession. I've spent so long blaming James for what happened, blaming Mark for leaving, blaming myself for everything that went wrong. But the truth is, I needed to stop blaming anyone. I needed to take responsibility for myself, for my actions, and the person I had become. I needed to find a way to forgive myself. Jennifer's hands now rest on her lap, her expression a mixture of vulnerability and strength. I tried everything to fix the mess I created. I went to therapy, I spoke to friends, and I even tried reaching out to Mark again. But the truth is, I don't think I'll ever fully fix what I broke. Not with Mark, not with James, and not with my child. What I did can't be erased, and maybe that's the hardest part of all of this. To know that some things are beyond repair. She takes a deep breath, her voice becoming more confident as she continues. But I realized something important. I realized that while I can't undo what's been done, I can start fresh. I can choose who I want to be now. I can't change the past, but I can shape the future. And I know that's going to be a long, hard journey. But I'm ready. I have to be. Jennifer looks directly into the camera, her eyes filled with determination. I've learned the hard way that the truth is the only thing that will set you free. I've learned that facing your mistakes head-on, no matter how painful, is the only way to move forward. And I've learned that sometimes, the people you think you can trust the most are the ones who end up hurting you the most. But that doesn't mean you give up. That doesn't mean you stop fighting for yourself. And that doesn't mean you stop living. Her gaze softens, and she lets out a long breath, as though releasing the burden she's been carrying for so long. I don't know what's next for me. I don't know if I'll ever fix everything I've broken, if Mark will ever forgive me, or if I'll ever fully repair the relationship with my child. But what I do know is this: I'm not giving up. I'm not going to let my past define my future. And I'm going to keep fighting, because even if I've lost everything, I haven't lost myself. Jennifer pauses for a moment, her face a mixture of resolve and vulnerability, as she finally speaks the words that have been weighing on her. And you know what? I think that's enough. That's enough for me to start again. That's enough for me to rebuild. And for the first time in a long time, I finally feel like I'm ready to move on. It's not going to be easy. I know it's going to take time. But I can't keep living in the past. I have to live for what's ahead. She stands up, walking slowly to the window, looking out at the world beyond, as if contemplating the future. The thing about life is, you never know what's going to happen next. But if you don't keep moving forward, if you don't keep fighting for yourself, then you'll never know what could be waiting for you on the other side. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm moving forward. Jennifer turns back to the camera, her voice strong and unwavering. This is the end of my story. But for me, it's just the beginning. I don't know what comes next, but I know one thing. I'm ready for whatever it is.